Hello, people of Earth. What it do? How's it going? What kind of stuff are you throwing down? So I'm very excited today because, well, Christine, are you excited for this too?
Yes.
Well, we're excited because we are going to be talking about Richard Ramirez, aka the Nightstalker. And so, okay, we both agree he was a horrible person. Let's just face it, a garbage piece of man. But he was a good-looking garbage piece of man. I mean, very much, very much.
If we're gonna be fair here, I don't think any serial killer isn't a piece of garbage. So I mean,
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But he did all of his works in the name of Satan. So I mean, I don't know. To me, I think that's worse. But yeah, no, you're right.
depends on who you ask there.
You're right. So, Richard Ramirez, who was born Ricardo Ramirez Munoz, was born on February 29th, 1960 in El Paso, Texas, to Mexican immigrants from the Ciudad Juarez in Mexico, northern Mexico, right? Just, leap across the border.
People with that birthday are kind of it's like every 4 years you only get a birthday.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get a birthday any other year, only that 1 year.
Haha.
Like,
He's mean. He didn't deserve birthdays.
I mean, pretty much. So, what's interesting is that his dad was a former police officer in Ciudad Juarez.
ironic.
I know, right? And so they moved to El Paso for a better life. His dad works on the railroad. His mom works in a boot factory. And when Richard was just 2 years old, a piece of furniture fell and smacked him on the head and left a gaping wound. And then at age 4 or 5, he was at the playground at school, and a one swing smacked him in the head and knocked him unconscious, which led to epilepsy.
No wonder he started killing people.
I know, right? Because we talked about this last time. There's this whole thing of head injuries, and then later depression, and later harm towards oneself or to others.
Do you remember what side the furniture landed on him?
No.
It's ironic because when my little sister was younger, I think from like the 3 to 6 year old range, a cabinet fell on her head and she had a scar.
Literally, same thing happened.
That's,
Oh my god.
she doesn't have she has no violent tendencies, but
She could be Rachel Ramirez.
Ooh,
I don't know,
yikes.
but it's just so fascinating, this whole thing of head injuries and serial killers. Well, anyway, so Richard had epilepsy all throughout school and was brought up, of course, having Mexican parents, grew up in a Roman Catholic home, and was even an altar boy at one time. So,
I wasn't gonna make the joke.
you're
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, like, I'm the Catholic here, and so I know well. Anyways,
He'll make the joke. It's fine.
anyways, I know pretty well. Anyways, so his dad was abusive, was just not a very nice man, and would even apparently tied him up to a crucifix at the cemetery and hit him for being a thief. And so he would actually sleep in the cemetery just to get away from his parents' house.
Whereas to that extent, it's not necessarily normal, but it seems like that's also kind of a similarity between most serial killers. They all seem to have been abused in one way or another at some point in their lives.
Yeah. Seems like they don't like their parents very much either.
No, but I mean, if what they say about what they did was true, I mean, can you really blame them?
Yeah, so I mean, this kid would go sleep in a cemetery. But later on, he became very close to his cousin Miguel, who was a veteran who fought in Vietnam. Now, you think veteran, okay, serve your country, you're a good person. This was not the case, because he would show Richard was a preteen, and he would show him photos of women he had raped and decapitated in Vietnam. And then also taught him military skills, like how to sneak up on people and how to tie knots and all that. So, I mean, what kind of person teaches that to a child?
Sadly, that I feel like that's more common with. Don't get me wrong, I support military in that.
Same.
I think without military,
Yes.
it would be a very different country without military.
We love you all.
But I feel like it's more common than people realize that not all military people are nice people.
Exactly.
Like, every group, no matter what group you're in, has that
Exactly.
at least one person who's told douche.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but again, I support the military.
Same.
I really do. Thank you. I have a buddy in the Marines. So
Same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But-
God bless you.
Anyway, continue.
And it's just, okay, so he's showing this poor adolescent child who's already having a rough home life what he would do to these women, and taught him that it's cool to hurt people. So eventually things escalated to where this cousin Miguel was fighting with his wife and shot her in the face and killed her.
Yikes.
Richard was there. Blood was on him. And this cousin only got 4 years in a mental institution because of pulling the insanity plea.
Huh.
Which,
Okay.
I'm sorry, anyone who kills another person, are you really sane at that point? I mean,
we've watched a few docuseries and stuff, and some of the interviews that I've seen are actually really creepy because, like, they look and sound like they were in a sound state of mind when they pulled the trigger, or they stabbed somebody, or hit somebody with a truck or whatever.
mhm.
And it's creepy that they can justify it the way they do. It's weird. It's really weird.
And, so that happened. So now Richard's been, multiple head injuries. Once again, head injuries. Then abusive home life. Messed up cousin who was a bad influence. Witnessed a murder. And then when he finally couldn't take living at his parents' house anymore, he moved in with his sister Yolanda. And her husband, I think his name was Roberto. Don't quote me on that. I think his name was that. He was a peeping Tom. So he would they would go on adventures throughout the neighborhood. And he would take Richard with him to be a peeping Tom, to watch women undress or go pee-pee or poo-poo in their homes. So, yeah, he's just, oh my God, he's just getting so many bad influences in his life at a crucial point in emotional development. So, okay, we have this. He's a peeping Tom. Then, at 15, a freshman in high school gets a part-time job at a Holiday Inn. Well, he would use his pass key to rob people when they were gone, until eventually there's this one lady who was by herself, and he tried to rape her. Luckily, her husband came back and, beat the crap out of him. And the only reason why they didn't press charges is because they were only visiting El Paso from out of state, and they just didn't want to waste their time and come back and testify. So they were like, you know what? We're just gonna leave, let it be. But he did get fired.
That must not have. It's like he didn't take the consequences for attempted rape.
Mm-hmm.
That probably put it in his head. It's like, hey, I'm not gonna get in trouble for this. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. Even if I was out of town, I would press charges. I just would.
Yeah.
So gets fired from there, and then drops out of school, 9th grade. And according to Bailey Sarian, these are her words, not much is known about his life until he started his killing spree. But all we know is that he just went from El Paso, took a bus to Los Angeles, and just stayed there forever.
I heard. Yeah, we actually watched that video she did on the Nightstalker.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I actually was doing a little research on that, and yeah, I couldn't find
There's not
anything.
much.
Only what he said himself,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. There's like no witnesses. There is nothing before he was basically an adult.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Like, especially, like, I'd imagine it's especially weird for, like, immigrants like that who, like, you're documented, you're pretty much watched 24/7. How does nobody know anything about him before they got to America? Like, it's weird.
Oh, he was born in the United States.
Oh, he was born in America. Oh, okay.
His parents immigrated, and he was born in El Paso.
Okay, never mind then.
And but still,
Even then.
But from what I heard, so I downloaded the book from Audible, about his life and crimes, and he would spend so many time. Well, all of his time was spent in the slums of Los Angeles, and the way the writer puts it in the book, if the City of Angels had an asshole, it would be the slums near the train stations, where you could find $10 hookers and get cocaine and, which all sounds fun, but like for the wrong person, like Richard, that's not a good place to be.
Yeah, for somebody who grew up the way he did, who had the mental problems that he did, that's just gonna exacerbate everything.
So, he would just get arrested for petty crimes like theft or, stealing cars. And then apparently from an inmate learned about Satanism, and he was like, "Oh, Satan!" And then he just started worshiping Satan, which, I feel bad even saying that. I don't even like saying that. That's what he started doing, though. And apparently his sister even tried visiting him a few times, like begging him to come back to the church and to come back home. And he was saying, "No, like, I've been inspired." And
that's something that's kind of interesting. It's like, a lot of people think that just because they're a serial killer means they must have been a Satanist or something. They must have some kind of satanic involvement. But actually, the vast majority of them didn't give a crap whatsoever. They didn't believe in God. They didn't believe in Satan. They just killed because they wanted to. So it's interesting to me that the fact that it's like widely believed that Satanism plays this huge role plays very little role in the grand scheme of it. It's like you said, Richard Ramirez, and there have been a few others, but for the most part, it's just psychos who enjoy what they do.
So anyway, she tried to knock some sense to him. She was like, come back to your faith, come back to the family, and he just wouldn't do it because he just felt touched. This was his new calling, the devil, into drugs, and his favorite thing was cocaine. He later said he loved cocaine. He would have a can, a pop can, and a bottle of water, a syringe, and some Coke. He would mix the Coke and water in the can, get the syringe, and then inject it into his arm.
He's like Roxo, the rock and roll clown.
Yeah, he would have a special hiding place in an alley for it. So he starts killing just to kill. No other reason, just to kill, but also to get money to fund his drug habits and to stay at the Cecil Hotel, which is where he stayed for the year of his killing spree.
There's actually a very interesting, there's this Haunted Places podcast on Spotify. It's called Haunted Places, and it's by the Parcast Network, and they have an episode on the Cecil Hotel. A lot of people think that they have seen Richard Ramirez ghost in the Cecil Hotel, just walking around.
Let's go.
Not just his. I mean, apparently the place is supposedly haunted. Like, a lot of people think they've actually seen this guy walking around the halls at night, and some people swear they've seen him in their room.
Let's go.
It's freaky, but
let's go. Where's our plane ticket?
Ramirez in my room.
Oh my god.
Just kidding.
He had a foot
For
fetish.
legal reasons, that's a joke. Oh.
He had a foot fetish, by the way.
Not to kink shame, but that's not my thing.
But so starts robbing to fund his bad habits and kills in the process because he just wanted to become very powerful in hell someday. So there's about 14 victims, but once again, with many killers, we can never quite be sure of the actual amount because, well, they lie, and then sometimes people are never found. So the most The most agreed on number is 14. We can say for sure it killed 14 people.
At
But
least.
it could be more. Could be more. We don't know.
Just like with Ted Bundy in the last video, they know he killed at least 30 people, but he claims to have killed in the hundreds.
So it wasn't until a 13-year-old, once again, not naming exact names because, well, don't know if we can. But anyway, so this 13-year-old boy sees Richard, walking around his house. Richard knows he's being watched, so he runs back to his car, and this boy actually is able to look at the car and write down part of his license plate number.
Smart kid.
So the car's abandoned, of course, and police are
They're on the lookout now.
they're on the lookout, and they're fingerprinting the
Mhm.
car, which apparently Richard was really good at wiping down the car, but it was only one fingerprint on the rear view mirror that he forgot about. They got that fingerprint, started running it through their records, and they found out it belonged to a drifter from Texas by the name of Richard Ramirez.
Bum, bum, bum.
So, now the news was going crazy. Now they finally had a face to him. And every single newspaper in Los Angeles and in the whole state of California had his face on the cover. Now, when this was happening, Richard was visiting his brother in Arizona. So he had no idea that they were onto him.
And they didn't know to look for him in Arizona.
No, of course not. So he goes back to Los Angeles and, goes into a convenience store, probably to get candy or something. And he looks at the news rack and he sees his face.
What a way to find out you're wanted.
No.
I mean, that is seriously an FML moment.
It really is. Just walk in, it's like, yeah.
So, obviously, he gets out of the store, then he goes on to catches a bus, and people are giving him weird looks because they also have the paper, and they're like, wait a second. So even when the bus stops, he jumps off the moving bus and starts running across highways, through people's yards, literally jumping fences in people's yards, trying to find somewhere to hide. Somewhere.
I mean, at that point, what else you gotta do? Everybody knows his face now.
I know, right?
Like, everybody recognized him. He was recognized by at least 20 people, it sounds like. Probably more.
Exactly. So where he was going, who knows where he was going? There's nowhere to hide at that point.
He was just,
So-
he was probably in panic mode.
Yeah. And he ends up in East LA. So for all of you who don't know East LA, it's a very Chicano area. A lot of Latin American people live there. And this is what brought pride to the neighborhood. So there was one woman, a young Latina woman, getting into her car, and he ran up and took her keys and punched her in the stomach and then tried to steal the car. And then a bunch of guys saw this happening and they're like, oh, hell no. So one of them grabbed a metal bar and smacked him over the head. And then other people realized who this was, and they're like, it's el matador, it's the killer. So they all just, while police are coming, everyone in that neighborhood, they're just taking turns just beating the crap out of him.
I mean, if you're gonna keep a serial killer at bay one way, you might as well hit him, blindside him with a pipe, and then just let everybody else come and kick him into the dirt.
So, I mean, the reason why I mentioned East LA is because it took away the stereotype of, oh, it's just like Little Mexico or whatever, and it gave that neighborhood pride. Like, we helped bring down this monster. And that night of his arrest, there was music, there was food, there was dancing until the sun came up. People were celebrating. They're like, we did it.
I mean, good reason to celebrate, I'd say.
So, Richard was arrested, and his motive was to kill. And not because he was mad at the people, or he didn't even look for specific people. He just went at random into people's houses and murdered.
Killed in the name of Satan.
Yep. Yeah, literally. Even left pentagrams at the scene of the crimes. And...
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
That's still...
So anyway, the trial went on for about 4 or 5 years because of the appeals process. And he had a lot of groupies, okay.
Which is really weird to me. How these
It is.
serial killers get these fans like okay, it's one thing to be interested and interested about and like want to learn the backstory and stuff, but to actually like go to bat for these people is freaking weird. If you're one of those people, I don't care to meet you. That's weird.
I know, and that's logical, but there was a lot of crazy ladies and men even. This is a true fact, ladies and men who thought he was just, he was just Mr. America, like thought he was just the most gorgeous person they had ever seen. So he would get, a lot of them would show up at court meetings and court hearings and send him mail in prison. And he even had a fan club where he would fill out questionnaires, which were, you can look them up. I'm not going to talk about them, but let's just say they're pretty interesting. So he was eventually found guilty, of course, and was sentenced to die in California's gas chamber at San Quentin Penitentiary. So during his time, kept getting all these fan letters and got married in 1996 by a journalist. Her name was Doreen. Cindy or Doreen? I don't remember.
Wait, somebody married this psycho?
Yeah, literally, she married him. And they were just... This woman was so proud to be married to him. And she was interviewed, and the interviewer was like, he is the face of evil, but you see the man of your dreams. Who needs glasses here?
Right?
And
it's true.
And she said, and her response is, I can't control how the rest of the world sees him. I don't believe he did those things.
Even after all the physical evidence?
Yeah, she just, I think she knew, but she didn't want to know, is what it was.
I know that feel.
she just didn't want to know. But...
just because you love somebody, or just because they're hot, doesn't mean that they're a good person.
And
know who you are.
And it doesn't mean you should excuse their bad actions. But, so they were married, but they eventually did get divorced because it was proven that his first victims was an 8-year-old girl who he had killed and did bad things with. So his wife even, she was faithful, but when she heard that, she was like, no. And then she eventually got rid of him.
I mean, at least she realized that at that point...
At least she had some standards.
But
if she still stayed with him after hearing that, I would have questioned everything.
I know, right? But it's just weird how the rest of the murders, she was making excuses for him and overlooking at it, but it was just at that point... just the fact that there's a child involved somehow made it different. Which, yeah, that's bad, of course. A child being murdered, yes. But human life is human life. So it's like, why not the first, the fact that he killed an 80-year-old woman meant nothing? Like,
to her, apparently.
So, but anyway, she did get rid of him. But, fun fact, yeah, he was married for a little bit. And another fun fact, so their wedding bands, she wore gold. But his band was silver because he was a Satanist, and Satanists cannot wear gold.
That's interesting.
Golden gates of heaven.
Seriously, that's why?
I'd assume.
Huh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
And, so he was on death row for a long time, but died in 2013 because of, cancer. I believe it was liver cancer because of his horrible health habits when he was young.
That's a more fitting way.
So he
very
died.
Painful for a long time.
Yeah.
That's more fitting for how he should have gone.
Yeah. And in one of the videos I watched, which I've watched a lot of videos, I can't point them all out because I've watched so many. Apparently, according to health staff, when he died, the whites of his eyes and his skin turned green.
That's weird.
Like he turned the color of your hair.
Oh,
that's weird.
Not human color.
Yeah, that's really weird.
No.
And so yeah, he died, and what happened to his body? I think he was cremated, and that was the story of a very just messed up man who, yes, was physically attractive, but that is not an excuse. So just R.I.P. to the victims, families. May they be able to find love and happiness in this world, and just, once again, just because someone's hot don't marry someone just because they're hot. It's okay to think someone's hot, but look at who they are and don't just marry them just because. And then what's another lesson we can get from this?
If you're seeing red flags like they're in jail, you should probably just walk away.
If they've murdered somebody, maybe pick someone else.
Yeah, just a suggestion, you know.
Like there's something where like maybe they had unpaid parking tickets or something. I don't know. Something like that's like okay, whatever. But if it's like a felony, like a violent felony, just walk away.
And, you know, just parents, treat your kids right. Don't make another Richard Ramirez. Don't do it.
Don't beat your kids in a cemetery.
Yeah.
Ever, really.
Yeah, and make sure you give your children a loving home. As well, watch out for those head injuries. You know, make sure your child doesn't get knocked out. Or if they do, get them examined and make sure that they get proper treatment. And just be a good person. Is it that hard? Like, don't kill people. Just don't do it. Just be nice to people.
I know you might want to, but don't.
If you don't like someone, that's okay. You don't have to like everyone, but just ignore them. Don't like someone, just ignore them. It's just real simple. Just love yourself, love others, and ignore the haters. I've spoken. Case closed.
If you didn't know by now, after through all these videos that we've done, he is the ultimate authority on these matters. If you couldn't tell.
I'm just here to sit still and look pretty.
So, any last words?
Be a good person.
Yeah, Trevor?
Stay away from drugs.
And say your prayers and moisturize.
Yeah, that too.
We usually do we've done little shout outs our last few videos, but we don't have anyone to shout out this week. So
Mountain Dew.
Yeah, sure. Go buy some Mountain Dew.
Watermelon.
Especially if you're a redneck who lives in Indiana, you'll love Mountain Dew.
Mount and Dew me.
And on that note,
I love y'all.
See you in the next one.